You're listening to Fire Ecology Chats, a podcast series by the Association for Fire Ecology.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Bob Keane. I am the editor-in-chief of the internationally renowned journal Fire Ecology. Fire Ecology is a journal that is published by Springer Nature, but is overseen by the Association for Fire Ecology. And it's a wonderful journal. It's growing like leaps and bounds. Our impact factor just went up again. And the reason it went up is because we get these podcasts and have some really great people on here. And today is no exception. Today we have Bruno and José talking to us all the way from Portugal. So I cannot say their last names because I cannot pronounce it, but they're here to talk about a paper called Synergistic Effects on Fire Hazard from Combined Linear Fuel Breaks and Mosaic Fuel Treatments. Welcome, Bruno and José. Bruno, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you very much for having us. My name is Bruno Aparício. Currently, I'm a faculty research assistant at Oregon State University, United States. But previously, at the time of this study, I was a PhD student at the University of Lisbon, Portugal, and international visiting scholar at USDA Forest Service.
Well, thank you for coming today. I appreciate it. And José, how about you?
Hello, thank you for the invitation. My name is José Pereira, and I'm a professor of forestry, more specifically fire ecology and management at the School of Agriculture Forest Research Center at the University of Lisbon.
Well, thank you for coming, José. I appreciate it, both of you. So let's go ahead and get started. Bruno, tell us about the paper.
In this study, we explored how we can combine linear fuel break networks with fuel treatment mosaics in order to have a synergistic effect in reducing wildfire hazards. So what we did was to simulate multiple landscape management scenarios in diverse bioregions of Portugal. And we found that if we co-implement these two archetypes, we can indeed have more fire containment, decrease burned area, and getting a lower occurrence of high-intensity fires. So, in a nutshell, we did prove that synergies between fuel break network and fuel treatment mosaic exists. This means that using the same budget, if we simply modify the spatial arrangement of the treatments, we can obtain extra benefits. And of course, these extra benefits are dependent on the type of fire regimes. If we are talking about landscape dominated by large and intense forest fires, those are the places where we see the highest synergy.
Yeah, I really like this paper because it's so unlike fuel treatment papers that we have in the States. It was a total different kind of approach, and I thought it was very creative. So, José, how do you think this study fits in the broad context of fuel management in Portugal?
Well, Portugal has a multi-agency, multi-fire management plan, and an important part of that is fuel management. And these two aspects that Bruno just mentioned, the fuel break network and patchy fuel treatments, are important components of that fuel management plan. And the Portuguese Forest Service has an important role in this process and a mandate to lead these aspects of the fire management plan. And this study was developed partially as a contract for the Forest Service, where they specifically asked us to look into what could be done to improve the effectiveness of the original design of this fuel break network, which has an extent of about 3,000 kilometers, 120 million euros. And one aspect that they asked us to look into was this possibility for us to try and find out whether there would be benefits to be gained from some articulation between the spatial location of the patchy fuel treatments and the pre-existing fuel break network. And so we worked with them to design the experiments to test that hypothesis, and then the rest is the study that Bruno produced and just published.
That is incredibly interesting. That's so cool that the study fits into a nationwide fuel management strategy. So, Bruno, tell us a little more about why you did this study.
Besides all the reasons just mentioned, which are more into like the practical field, like the reality check, if you would like, there was also the scientific curiosity behind it. So recently we've been seeing a large number of studies published that identify and quantify the effects of either implementing a fuel break network or fuel treatment mosaics. However, these studies often ignore the existence of the other. So that made us question, can we be ignoring synergies between these two archetypes? So if we combine them, can we get free benefits? Can we obtain a higher reduction, for instance, the extent of burned area that was not predicted when we are analyzing the two archetypes individually? If we are only implementing one of the two, can we be missing out the opportunity to leverage even more the performance? And another key factor that motivated this study is that the fire intensity near the fuel break network is often one of the most important predictors of whether the fire suppression will be effective. So even at least in theory, placing fuel treatment mosaics close to the fuel break network can help us increasing the probability of fire containment just by reducing fire intensity close to the fuel break network. So in a way, we wanted to prove all of this and combining all of that in a study at the same time as helping the Portuguese Forest Service in implementing their own plan.
So I got to ask the $1 million question, Jose. What are the chances of Portugal actually adopting the recommendations from this study?
Actually, I think some of the conclusions from Bruno's study are very clear and actually actionable. One of the more relevant ones, in my opinion, is the finding that we have 4 pilot areas, 3 of them predominantly forested, and the 4th one is a mountain in northwestern Portugal where the dominant land cover type is shrublands. And it was very clear that in that shrubland area, patchy fuel treatments by themselves were quite effective at reducing area burned, and there was not much benefit from the existence of a linear network of fuel breaks. And so actually what this indicates is that restoring the traditional fire management practices in that area, when we have traditional fire-based pastoralism, essentially of sheep and goats, which has been declining because shepherds have been aging and migrating out of the area. So the restoration of those traditional practices should go a long way towards mitigating the fire problem they currently have. In the more densely forested areas where the fire problem is more severe and more complex, we actually see that the interaction between the two types of treatment is really necessary and has this synergistic effect. So I think these are very clear, useful messages that I'm quite confident that the Forest Service will start incorporating in their practices on the ground, not only on that specific mountain of northwestern Portugal, but we have about 1 million hectares of mountain shrublands in similar conditions to which these conclusions will also apply.
Yeah, that is incredibly interesting to see a study that can go ahead and actually influence a fuel management strategy. Well, thank you both. This has been a wonderful talk. I appreciate it. I hope people download the paper. Bruno, do you want to recognize any co-authors or funding agencies?
Yes, thank you again for having us. I would like to acknowledge the contributions of the co-authors Alan Egger from the USDA Forest Service and Akli Ben Ali from University of Lisbon. I would also like to acknowledge the financial support by FCT, the Portuguese Foundation for Science, the Portuguese Forest Service, and the USDA Forest Service National Fire Decision Support Center.
The Forest Research Center.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again, both of you, for coming and joining us and spending your time telling us about the paper. Those of you who are interested in the paper, and it should be all of you because it's an incredibly interesting paper, can download it for free because these guys have already paid all the freight for the publication of the journal. So you can download it for free from our website and enjoy the paper at your leisure. Again, thank you both for coming, and please tune in to the next Fire Ecology Chats.
Thank you for listening to Fire Ecology Chats, a podcast series by the Association for Fire Ecology. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe to our show and leave us a review. To learn more about fire ecology and support our future work by becoming a member, visit fireecology.org. FIREECOLOGY.org.